I have an interesting observation. I just thought of it as you're speaking. Iran is not charging a toll at the Strait of Hormuz, from what I understand. The deal is for at least the next 60 days they want. So the big question is, do you think they will after the 60 days? Or if with the right concessions, if sanctions are lifted, etc., they won't charge a toll either?
Nope, they'll start charging. They realize, hey, we got a money-making opportunity here. And so
I want to...
they'll charge, but again, they're going to live up to the specifics of the MOU. MOU says 60 days. They got the clock out. They're counting 60 days. I don't know if the clock started last week or if it started on Sunday or but they sure know when 60 days started, and they're going to hold the United States to that.
I want to actually play a clip. Lisa, can you play the clip from Tucker? This is not the one I was looking for, but play this one as well. And there's another one. My team posted it, and I was listening to it before we started. He was in an interview with with Alex Jones. Is that it? Maybe. Hold on. You can play it, Lisa, with the audio. Yeah, this is it. This is it. It's
Tucker with Alex Jones. Okay.
Yeah, Alex was interviewing him, I guess. I just saw it on my feed. If you can play it, Lisa, with the audio, please. It's just an interesting perspective on Israel.
I think we're in a really dangerous place right now because Israel is, for the first time maybe in my lifetime, legitimately threatened. And I say this as an opponent of the Israeli government, obviously a fairly well-known opponent of the Israeli government, but I don't want to see innocents die anywhere, including Israel, period. I believe in universal standards. It's always wrong to kill innocent people, including in Israel. So I'm not wishing their destruction, but I think they are in a very tough spot. And the problem for Israel is they've been talking for 50 years, my whole conscious life, about how they're on the verge of being destroyed. And that's always been a lie. But now you have an Iran that is a regional power. It's a global power, and it's not going to go away. And so Israel is in a place where domestically the country's gone crazy. They're convincing themselves that, every crisis is an existential crisis. The only way out is to kill more people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then their great enemy suddenly becomes, paradoxically, ironically, way more powerful than it was when this war started 3 months ago. And so, where does that leave the Israelis? By the way, the United States is clearly going to begin the process, hopefully a short process, of distancing itself from Israel. We've got no choice. And they know that. The smart ones know that. So they're in a box. And in general, you don't want to put people in boxes. You don't want to corner them, people or animals, because they do unpredictable things. And so I think Israel's a threat. Israel has one trump card. It's nuclear weapons. And you don't want to put Israel in a position where they feel they have no choice but to use those weapons. I think Israel's always been a lot closer to using nukes than any other country. I mean, we know that because they've said that. And I think they're now closer than they've ever been. So I'm not in charge of anything. I'm just a podcaster. But if I were running the US government, I would, immediately distance myself from Israel, stop paying for their genocide, of course, on moral grounds. But I would also try to calm them down, because if they get too overwrought, really destructive things could happen. That's an absolute possibility. And anyone who says it's not a possibility is lying. It is a possibility.
This is the part where
I am very.
So the concern that he has is Israel's in such a difficult position right now that if they feel cornered as a country that has nuclear weapons, we were worried. A lot of people were worried that Israel may use nuclear weapons during the Iran war. If they were in a difficult position then. Now, Iran is getting stronger. The power is shifting towards Iran, medium to long term. Israel's in a position where they, unfortunately, they see Iran as an existential threat, and the same rhetoric continues now. And Tucker is worries that if the US does not calm Israel, I don't know how they could calm them. And he says, quote, Israel's in a box and they could do unpredictable things. He says Israel's one trump card, it's nuclear weapons. So he's hinting that if Israel feels trapped and American security is removed, his worry is they may resort to a nuclear weapon.
Well, they might, but you got to think it through. Israel doesn't have the means to nuke all of Iran. So they will, hit one site with a nuclear device. If they decide to kill the people of Tehran, then all of a sudden, all of those nuclear-proofed missile cities, they're going to come online and they will launch everything they have against Israel. Israel will be destroyed in turn. And Israel, they need to, I'm sure they've taken that into account, that there's Iran will, even after let's say Iran after death, will still be able to strike back and punish Israel. So I think it's one of those things that I understand Tucker's concern for it, and it's legitimate. But I'm thinking through that no matter how optimistic the Israelis would be that, this is going to destroy Iran, this will disable Iran, I think they'll once again find that their assumptions were terribly, terribly wrong.
And I'm less worried about what Tucker's worried about. Is because I just feel like if the Israelis look at the two scenarios, the two options they have, number one is continue their foreign policy that leads to more wars and violence. Right. But without American security, that might put them in a corner. They have to resort to a nuclear weapon that will alienate them even further from the rest of the world. And that's it. Their economy would collapse. Investors would flee. People would flee. It just changes everything.
Right.
The alternative would be just to simply change your freaking approach to foreign policy. I was speaking to Professor Gibbs earlier, and we'll do a deeper dive into it. Not sure if you know a lot about the South African apartheid state and what led to its collapse. But from different guests telling me about it is that the sanctions and the international pressure is what led them to eventually be forced to change. And I think this is a more logical path for the Israelis. The Israelis are not suicidal. I think they're in they're in a different mindset to the rest of the world in how they perceive themselves in the region. But I don't think they want to commit suicide as a nation by using nukes and just destroying everything they built.
You mean you see Israel trying to give Iran the South Africa treatment?
No, I think the world is giving Israel the South Africa treatment now that the US is stepping away. And then Israel will be forced to change like apartheid to South Africa did.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's the best case scenario.
Well,